I I I have absolutely no doubt that volunteering will open up things in people's life like it never did before. Because now volunteering ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? So you're thinking beyond yourself. When does depression hit you? When do you tend to have anxiety, worry, panic, negative emotions around you? When you're sitting in a room and thinking, what about me? What about me? What about me?
Recording. So uh, good to have you, Sreekala, here. Welcome to Pungi's podcast. So this is the 5P podcast. So it's People, Passion, Purpose podcast by Pungi. So it's a 5P podcast. And good to connect with you after a very long time. I think we connected on energy and wavelengths. I think we've not connected in person for, I don't think that for. So it's good to have you, and I think you bring enough energy into this to make this a very interesting and a very powerful podcast. So over to you. Maybe
Thank
just share some interesting stories from your childhood. So I think that's one of my favorite things. So you can start with an interesting story from your childhood.
you. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Sunil. First of all, a very hearty namaskara. On a nice Bangalore evening, it's been definitely, connecting to people on these kind of purposeful purposes is something that keeps a lot of us very, very charged. And I'm glad that with Pungidasa, you're quite literally taking it to the next level, because if there's something that connects everybody, it is stories. ಚಿಕ್ಕ ವಯಸ್ಸಿಂದ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. And even when the intellect is not at all developed, ಅಜ್ಜಿಯಿಂದ ಕೇಳೋದು, ತಾತಾಯಿಂದ ಕೇಳೋದು, ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಯಿಂದ ಕೇಳೋದು, there's always a beauty towards stories. So I'm glad you're making even storytelling so purposeful and so beautiful. So to your question, thinking about my favorite childhood stories would typically be the stories where especially in a lot of South Indian families, kaituttu annodu is a concept, alva. So for me,
Yeah,
that when you talk of stories, that is the first thing that comes to my mind, because it always used to be. I grew up in a joint family, and we used to always have cousins and all of them coming during vacations. ಆ ತರ ಇರುವಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಕೂರಿಸಿ ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಗಿವ್ ಅಸ್ ಕೈತುತ್ತು, ಅಂಡ್ ಕೈತುತ್ತು ಕೊಡುವಾಗ ಎವ್ರಿ ತುತ್ತು ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ, or a combination of multiple kaitutus used to have so many stories. And those, now in retrospection nodidre, those were such learning moments, because ಒಬ್ರಿಗೊಬ್ರು ಅದನ್ನ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಒಬ್ರು ಕೈತುತ್ತಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕೈತುತ್ತಿಗೆ ಹೋಗೋವರೆಗೆ the story would have taken a big transition. There's a difference between the youngest cousin eating and the oldest cousin eating. So ಈ ತರದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡುವಾಗ the whole aspect of stories itself became a story, as a child. So that's my fondest memory of stories.
when you mentioned Kaitutu, I was like, so that also brought a lot of memories. Ajji, typically is always Ajji, and most of the
Yeah,
is Amma's Amma. So usually that
correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
with them we connect a lot, and it used to be that I was at least the elder one, so I used to finish.
Mhm.
I had to wait till the rest of them finish. And there was always
Uh-huh.
competition as to get who gets the last Kaitutu. So that was
Yeah, because ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ತುಪ್ಪ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಬೇಳೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಸಾರನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ವೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ತಿನ್ಸಿ ಅದಾಗಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ದೃಷ್ಟಿ ತೆಗಿತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ನೋ ದಟ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಒನ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಂತ. ಐ ಸೊ ರಿಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್
yeah,
ದಟ್.
yeah. So I think very interesting mention. So you said the family, you are from a joint family. So how's that experience for people? I think the current generation has relatively no idea. ಎದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಂದಾಗ ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ ಏನಂತೀರಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸಸ್ ಹೇಗಿತ್ತು?
So I think the first thing that it's always like that, alva. Adralli irovaga you don't get to know of it, but once you grow out of it, and then now when you are in smaller families because of various reasons, aವಾಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತೆ. The one thing in a joint family, my experience has been that ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ್ರೆ there is always somebody. You are never opening the lock to a door, alva. And the other thing I felt was a big learning is that ಇವಾಗ corporations ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ, in big corporates they talk of inclusion and diversity, and they're talking of generational diversity, but any joint family automatically has it, alva. You have people spanning across 2 or 3 generations staying under the same roof. So adralli nanige, I think my best experience has been is to learn how to peacefully coexist with multiple generations, alva. And ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಬರೋ ಒಂದು ಲರ್ನಿಂಗು, ದಟ್ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ತಾಳ್ಮೆ ಅಂತಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಓಕೆ ವಿತ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್. ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅ ರೆಬೆಲ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್, ವೇಟಿಂಗ್. ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್. ವಿ ವರ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್. ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದೇ ಸೋಪ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಒಂದು ಟವಲ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಇಟ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಇವಾಗ ಒಂದ್ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ 4 ಜನ ಇದ್ರೆ 4 ಸೋಪ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, 4 ಟೂತ್ ಪೇಸ್ಟ್ ವೆರೈಟೀಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Those, I think the beauty of joint family is to teach you simple living, and it teaches you about peacefully coexisting. Adanna nanu, it became very close to my heart. So that has been one of the best things. My second deepest learning with being in a joint family is that there are all types of people on this planet anta, right? So at one point of time I remember ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು 9 ಜನ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮಮ್ಮ ಅವಾಗ ಹೇಳೋರು, ಓ ನವಗ್ರಹಗಳನ್ನ ಎಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ನಡೆಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಅವಾಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. But now as somebody who runs, you grow up, you have your own roles. Adana noduvaga I'm like, wow. I think by default people had that sense of patience and coexisting, harmony that they had.
Definitely. I think ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯವ್ರಿಗೂ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So when we talk about sustainability or something like that, I think the first thing that you should go is at least 2 generation ಹಿಂದೆ ಹೋಗಿ. You automatically become sustainable. You bought the point of inclusion and all that. So all varieties, like Navagraha and like 7 stars, like seven. Yeah. And I think playing childhood wise, I think you will never have shortage of cousins.
Yes,
There's
absolutely
always to be someone there.
Correct. I find it, so I have 2 children, 2 young children, and when they come and say, oh, we are so bored, we don't have people, we used to wonder, oh man, we at any point of time you will have half a dozen team ready. So yav aata now start madidrunu, it will have its flavor, it will have its own customization. So you used to always have at least minimum 1 basketball team number of children at home, and those are again fond ways of growing up.
And many of my stories and ನನ್ನ ಕಥೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ, many backgrounds come from say whatever I have been brought up on. And there used to be like playing wise, ನನ್ನ ಅಪ್ಪನ ಅಮ್ಮನ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ there are so many plays that ನನಗೆ ಈಗ ಲಗೋರಿ we were introduced, I think. But the present generation has no idea of lagori. So are there any such interesting games that you played in your upbringing that?
Oh yes, I think lagori anta ಹೇಳಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ it just opens up something in all of us. So ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇದು the hopscotch ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿ, ಕುಂಟಾಬಿಲ್ಲಿ, ಅದು ಆಮೇಲೆ then lagori. These were, so lagori was definitely my favorite game. ಅದಾಗಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ we used to have our own versions of cricket. In fact cricket ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇದೆ, ನಾವು ಆಟ ಆಡುತ್ತಿರುವಾಗ it used to be that the sixer ಹೊಡಿಯೋದು means basically ball goes into somebody's house. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಆ ಬಾಲ್ ನ ವಾಪಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬರೋದು used to be such a heroic act. ಕೆಲವು ಸತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗಿರತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಲವು ಸಲ ಟೆರೆಸಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿರತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಲವು ಸಲ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಬ್ಯಾಲ್ಕನಿಲಿ ಹೋಗಿರತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ಏಣಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಂದು ಅದನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿ ಒಂದು ಗೋಡೆಯಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಗೋಡೆಗೆ ಜಂಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಇಟ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಅನ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೀರೋಯಿಸಮ್ ಟು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ರಿಟ್ರೀವ್ ಅ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಬಾಲ್. ಕೆಲವು ಸಲ ಇವಾಗ when children say, oh that ball is lost, let's go get a new one, I'm like, you've just missed the whole point of the game. Alva, the crux of the cricket is not in the sixers or the fours, it is in going and getting that ball in that mori. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾವು ಇರತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲಿ ಇರತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ you will go get it and come. I remember ನಂದು 10th standard exam ಮುಂಚೆ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಇದೇ ತರ ಬಾಲ್ ಯಾರ್ದೋ ಬ್ಯಾಲ್ಕನಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ my parents are very encouraging that we should always play every single day ಅಂತ. So even 10th standard boards ಇದ್ದವಾಗ್ಲೂ I used to definitely have a compulsory 1 hour play time. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ಕ್ರಿಕೆಟ್ ಆಡೋವಾಗ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಈ ತರ ಬ್ಯಾಲ್ಕನಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಲ್ ಹೋಗಿತ್ತು. ಐ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್ ಏಣಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಂದು, ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ರೂಟೀನ್. ವಿ ಕ್ಲೈಂಬ್ಡ್ ಅಪ್ ದ ಲ್ಯಾಡರ್, ಹೋಗಿ ಬಾಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬರೋವಾಗ ದಟ್ ಹೋಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಡರ್ ಬ್ರೋಕ್. And I remember my father seeing with his mouth open on how I came crashing down from the first floor to the ground floor. ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಬಿದ್ದು ಇದರೆಲ್ಲ ಹರಿದೋಯ್ತು. But I was like, in 2 minutes I said, okay, let's go for the next game. And after that my father decided that he will never watch us play cricket because it was a lot of tension for him. So, many such fond memories on that.
That's fantastic. I think the also other point was ಪಕ್ಕದ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಾಲ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ಅವ್ರು ಬೈತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ದಂಗೆ that was an act of, that was
exactly
using all
actually ನೀವು ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ನಂಗೆ ಯಾಕೋ those were such amazing survival skills ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಇವಾಗ I think all these things ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾವು ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಕೊಡೋದನ್ನ we should stop. We should expose them to the uncertainty of growing up. ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಆಟ ಆಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಲಿ. ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ coming to stories, the beauty a story is interesting when you have that uncertainty element. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ people keep listening, whether it is poetry, whether it is storytelling. ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ನೀವು ಪುಂಗಿದಾಸನಲ್ಲೇ ನೋಡಿ, when you all the stories that you have lovely penned down, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ದಟ್ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಯೂರಿಯಾಸಿಟಿ, ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಎಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ the whole fun is gone ಅಲ್ವಾ. That's typically the connection.
That's definitely the case. I think ನಮ್ಮ ತಂದೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಈ ಮರಕೋತಿ ಆಟ. So there are so many other things that ಈ ಲಗೋರಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸರ್ವೈವಿಂಗ್, and then ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ and then ಇನ್ನೊಂದು some box that you put.
ಚೋರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ತಮಿಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಚೋರಿ ಅಂತ. It's where you put the shells into each of
exactly.
Yeah, ಅದನ್ನ we used to get these ಸೀತಾಫಳದು ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಳ್ಳಕ್ ಬಿಡೋದು, ಆ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು we used to play with that.
Absolutely. And every house had a garden, so you like the abundance of food, abundance of play, abundance of everything. I think ಆಗ ದುಡ್ಡಿಂದ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, we didn't have such say maybe ಐಷಾರಾಮಿ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು, but the enjoyment in terms of your childhood has always been fantastic. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಸತಿ ಬೇಜಾರಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಗೆ ಅದು ಗೊತ್ತೇ ಇಲ್ಲ.
This is where channels like yours, this is where stories like yours connects them to that virtual reality world of playing. So in fact I feel in that case our current generation is more lucky. They have your stories to go back to, they have experiences from our generation where they can play, and at the same time they have some other time pass. Tumba boredaga they can pick up some random board games, but I think they in fact have the best of both worlds inside there.
Exactly. So I feel myself lucky. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋ ಪ್ರಪಂಚ, ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಇರೋ ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಎರಡೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ.
ಹೌದು.
ಬೋರ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಬೋರ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಏನೋ ಪಕ್ಕದ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗು, ಅದೇನೋ ಸಿಗತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರೋಡಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಆಟ ಆಡ್ತಿದ್ರು.
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್.
ಆಗ ಈ ಟೈರ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆಟ ಆಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಈ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು allow them to ಟಚ್ ಅ ಟೈರ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು 10 ಸತಿ
Correct.
So that is so many interesting things.
Yeah, we had very, very strong immunization programs. They are called as rodaliro mannu, kallu, all the bacteria on the road. I think that is why we were a stronger set, but that said, even according to the rest of the world, if you see nam deshdalli, because we are exposed to so many different types of conditions and so many types of variety, and plus because we are just an older civilization, thankfully we still have some of our roots being very, very strong. Maybe that is why we are still open to these kind of immunization programs which is playing on the road. Adanna to people, to the listeners who are listening to this podcast, as a parent my humble request is that please allow your children to explore. ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಆಟ ಆಡ್ಬೇಕು ಹಂಗೆ ಆಡಬೇಕು, everybody cannot become a national level champion. So allow them to play the regular, normal, non-points game, because that is going to teach them much more in life than just the sport. So sports anta ಒಂದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಗೇಮ್ ಅಂತ ನೋಡೋದು. So sports ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಖಂಡಿತ ಹಾಕಿ, as a national level sports person I definitely encourage you to put them into organized sports, but at the same time please make sure that as a parent you are giving them the experience of playing games. Okay, so I think that is something that our listeners and should definitely indulge in, even
so
as adults.
You brought an interesting point. So you said you were a national level sports personality. I didn't know that. So maybe put that in, put some light on that. So how is you doing?
Right. So I've played karate and throw ball professionally, Sunil. So I've played karate in the women's category. I've participated at the national level, and I was ranked 2 in the knockout fight category, in the black belt women's category, way back, of course. This is like 20 years, almost 20 years back. So I think what sports did to me was, I was a very, 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 very shy child, who was very, very happy in my own circles. But what karate did to me was it opened up to the fact that I had to pick myself up when I fall. ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋವಾಗ ನಾನು ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದ ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಮನೆ ಪಕ್ಕ ಇರೋ ಒಂದೇ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಕರಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೇವರ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ 2 ಆಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ at that point of time. Either I had to join karate or ಭರತನಾಟ್ಯಂ. ನನ್ನ ತಂಗಿ ಭರತನಾಟ್ಯಂ ಹೋದ್ಲು and ನನಗೆ when I danced the teacher only looked at me and said, you look like you can join the military, so why don't you evaluate another class ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಅವರೇ ನನ್ಗೆ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರು, ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. But what started off by chance ended up becoming a big um, opening up for me, and I went on to completely explore myself out in that. Adralli nange of course we had fantastic teachers, and getting a black belt then was not a joke. You really had to practice. So that kind of pushed my limits. So adu adaga nanu competitive level alli I started participating, and I did for 2-3 years, and then after that at that point of time I got selected at the national level to play. So I represented Karnataka and I won in that category. So it was good because makad mele ee kade ond hodidre ee kade hodibardu anta you will try to save yourself versus anything else. And especially a divine sport like karate, tumba jana ಏನು ಅನ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ martial arts andre you stop being, especially as a girl, people have their own inhibitions. People used to tell my parents, karate ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ, ಹುಡುಗನ್ ತರ ಆಗೋಗ್ತಾಳೆ, ಹುಡುಗಿ ತರ ಇರಲ್ಲ ಅವಳು, and all that stuff. But I don't think any of it is true, because nam traditional martial arts alli there is equal importance given to the state of the mind, and it is just not about what you see in the movies, just kicking and punching and belting. It is not at all like that. So competitive sports alli, martial arts alli, the thing I learned was where focusing on the mind as well a lot, I think, which is what has led me to being a yoga and meditation teacher now after so many years. So adralli I the right balance between mental and the use of your mental strength and physical strength was what martial arts taught me. And then it just became where I started playing all sports. I used to be always interested in all of them, and then I also played for Karnataka at in throwball as well, in the women's throwball team. And Boshal Iddaglu I captained the throwball team over there. So that was good fun. It's always been fun.
Fantastic. So there are 2 questions. One, I think you can answer whenever possible. So teachers ಅಥವಾ ಗುರುಗಳು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್, and that's I think I can safely say it's a very Indian concept.
Right.
We've always been put up saying that the teacher is always at the highest pedestal, and I think growing up we've had that. And
absolutely.
I think maybe now that we catch back with teachers, we're like, they were human after all. And I don't think we saw teachers as anybody like humans. So they were superhuman at certain times.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How's your experience now that you're into teaching, you're into that mentoring role?
I think now ಚಿಕ್ಕವರಿದ್ದಾಗ we normally take these things for granted, alva, because if there is one person in all our lives who, other than our parents, where we have had the opportunity, and for those who have had the opportunity, they know what a blessing it is going to be our teachers. I was extremely fortunate to have brilliant teachers as I grew up, in the school that I studied, which is the Frank Anthony Public School in Bangalore. And what I did realize is that teachers can set the direction in your life. Then culturally we give that, we say a guru is somebody who brings light into life anta. Guru tatvana ನಾವು ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, that somebody who dispels light ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರೆಯೋದು. And even in that there are many degrees, acharya ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, one who's an expert at what they are doing, which is what we call as domain experts or subject matter experts in the corporate language. And the guru is somebody who's beyond that. Right? Ivaga now so many organizations are listening, talking about mentorship, about coaching. What does it talk about? It talks about ivaga nimmalli ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದಿರೋ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಎನೇಬಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. as a mentor, I am not going to tell you, Pungidasa, please do this, right? But what you want to do, my job is to be a mirror, my job is to be a reflector of what you are. And how do I do that? In a very unbiased way, in a very non-judgmental manner, and just coming out of a space of care, concern, and love.
Absolutely.
And we are blessed to be in a culture where this has been given that kind of importance. In fact, guru ilde iroರಿಗೆ ಅನಾಥರು ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ, because you can have everything under the world, but if you don't have that guru tattva to guide you in your life, then you're equivalent to not having anything. Alva? So as a teacher now, especially as somebody who works with youth, teaching stress management and yoga and meditation for the last 12, 13 years now, it is, I think if there's one word that describes that experience, it is contentment. It is purposeful. Going back to the 5 P's of your channel, right? It is just so purposeful, because what you're doing is that you're setting people up for success.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think ಈ ಉತ್ತರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕೊಡ್ತಿರೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ, and there was one, I think, another question that had popped up, the previous one. So, stereotypes are something that I think, from what I've seen, you've consistently broken. Give me a favorite stereotype that you've broken.
Favorite stereotype? Oh my God, I'm wondering if it'll just get controversial. I think, I read this quote long back, is that a stereotypical girl, or a successful woman is always has somebody. I'm just re-quoting it again, okay, not in the exact words, but I'll just say it. A successful woman is always somebody who had a dad and a mom who didn't believe in stereotypes. So while I think it started there, where I think the first stereotype I broke was about, back then, girls learning karate. The second stereotype was that people can pursue sports at a professional level, even while having a perfectly normal education interest and academic interest and all of that, which was still a very, very controversial thing back then, because ಆಟ ಕಳ್ಸ್ಬಿಟ್ರ ಹಂಗಾದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಓದ್ತಾಳೆ. But hey, the truth is I did well in both fields, right? The next stereotype I think I've managed to break is on how working mothers should be. This is a difficult journey, though. This is the most difficult stereotype to break. Every time you feel you've broken it, you have a new flavor popping up. But I think the stereotypes of how one should be. In fact, I'm writing a book called as The Imperfect Mom, because I've just realized that there is no such thing as perfect, perfection in all of these roles.
Yes.
So
I think that
these
puts
are the top.
Sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
Hey, I mean, these were the top 3 stereotypes. Oh yeah, the biggest stereotype has been about how somebody can be deep into spirituality while having a perfectly normal grihastha life. So I'm married, I have 2 children, and all of them happened after I got into spirituality. Then a lot of people, when I was 20 to 23 and I got into spirituality, they said, oh, sannyasi agogtale, ashte life you'll do, and all that stuff. But I think the biggest stereotype breaking has been where I've been able to be my full self in my personal life, in my grihastha ashrama, as well as my professional life, where I've grown in the career, yet live a very, very purposeful life by teaching the art of living stress management programs to people.
So I think the question that popped up when you said imperfect mom was like, I have seen my mom, my grandmoms, that generation of people. So I think the pressure you have to be that perfect self is way, way higher, I think. And dads may have it, they don't express it. I think I stereotype there. But with moms, at least, I think this is going to be a very interesting book. So how do you manage your own expectations? It's a very open.
This is a very brilliant question, Sunil, and you got me thinking. How do I manage my own expectations? There are times when, as human beings, we are all vulnerable. There are times that I have felt that I have always had very high expectations. And I think there are only 2 ways it happens. Either you realize that you can't live up to it, or life will teach you up to it, right? And so there are times when you want to do everything perfect, and then you will realize that it's just chaos. And our time only just accepting that, yes, this is how it is. Of course, I'm genuinely lucky that My husband is a very good sounding board for these things, also an art of living teacher, also, perfectly normal on the grihastha ashrama and all of that. There are times when he has shown me the mirror and said, listen, ishte madakagate, idikkinta jasti madakagala. Because I realized at some point of time that the only thing that can completely consume you is guilt. So at any point of time, if you have to do things, you have to know to draw that line between, the ಹಿಂದಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಸಬ್ಸೆ ಬಡಾ ರೋಗ್ ಕ್ಯಾ ಕಹೆಂಗೆ ಲೋಗ್ ಅಂತ. So people will always have these stereotypes defined about how to be a working lady, how to be a mom, how to be a dutiful wife, daughter-in-law, daughter, all of that. But you being the center of the story is somebody only you know how much balance you can put into all of these. And that is something that you should unapologetically do for yourself and be okay to fail in all these roles. Because if you don't, then life will teach you to fail. It's okay. It's anyway going to happen. You might as well just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to goof up today. So
I think that is a very important. Tumba, now I'm a teacher actually. So kindergarten. So I've
very
seen
nice. Wow.
things that she's telling, and the parents, rub whenever the kid makes a mistake, makes them write it perfectly and show it. Amma ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, yeah, it looks correct, but then the child is not learning the process of making a mistake again and again. So
correct. Wow.
Hey, maybe if you do the same mistake 20 years later, like you don't know how to write A, then it is a big mistake, and then it is a problem. But at that point, it is very important to make mistakes. And I think as parents, it is very important to say that no, it is
So
okay
true.
to make mistakes. And then I think as adults, we make more mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I remember one of the most harrowing experiences as a youth stress management teacher. We have just two main types of people who come to the programs, who are when we teach the rehabilitation programs and the depression focus programs. You'll find that the youth who are extremely troubled come from only two types of parents. Either parents who really don't care and they have a very they have a different philosophy which says, oh, we are always friends, you decide whatever you want, I'm okay, and they do it very young when the child is not in the age to take a decision, and then the child is growing up to regret its decisions. This is one set. The second set is extremely overprotective parents who have not allowed the child to make a mistake. ಒಂದು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೋಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆ ಕಾನ್ಫಿಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ, ಸರಿ ಓಕೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ನೋಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಕರೇಜ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ತುಂಬಾ ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟೀಸ್ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದೇ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಗೋ ವೆರಿ ಸೇಫ್. And hey, the truth is life is not going to be like that. So again, like, because we were speaking about parenting, I think one of the first thing is to be an imperfect parent. It's okay, yeah, what will happen, yeah. Anyway, every child is going to grow up and say, you don't understand me, you are not from my generation. Okay. The right thing is to give that balance between what is okay and what is not okay, and allow them to fail. I think that's something that I have seen. Like, I remember in 5th class alli iddaga, I used to get teased that I used to go for every selection and every audition in school without getting selected. Finally, when I first climbed the stage for my Kannada debate, I was in my 10th standard, right? And but until then, neither did my parents give up on me, neither did my teachers give up on me, right? But hey, I was that imperfect me practicing for 5 years. But after that, for the next 3 years, I went on to win over 300 debates.
Wow.
Right? And for every single person listening to this is a very, very humble submission. Never judge yourself because of failures. Just keep doing it, right? And ನಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪ ತುಂಬಾ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ನನ್ನನ್ನ ವಾಯಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕರೆಯೋದು. ತಮಿಳಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಯಾಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಮಾತಾಡೋರಿಗೆ ವಾಯಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. My father used to always say, your talking is never going to get you anything in life anta. But I do realize my talking has got me a lot in life, as long as it is purposeful.
Exactly. So maybe a cliche question. So how did this purpose come about? And I think it's not something that pratyaksha agodantalla. So how did you get there?
I think it was a very gradual journey, actually, Sunil. but it got deeper every time. So 2006 early, I was always very, very curious about, these things. I used to wonder. I used to sit in talks which I never used to understand, even as a child. Aji jote hogta idde, nam ತಂದೆ ಜೊತೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ತಾಯಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋರು. My mom was a voracious reader, Tamil literature ಅಲ್ಲಿ. So she used to, kind of give me some of these tatvams. And avaga we used to make fun and, go off, run away, kind of a thing. But it used to always have that curiosity in me. Maybe it's just some impressions that stayed on. But as I grew up to being like, oh, all of this is fake, and we don't believe in all of this. And you have that phase where you go through this rebel, secular, so-called so-called culture. But for me at that point of time also, it was about questioning, and the beauty of the our upbringing, our questioning, our Sanatana Dharma is that you are encouraged to ask questions. Alva? I was, in fact, because we are having this talk in the Bhagavad Gita Saptaha, which is 5,518 years in which the Bhagavad Gita was delivered. The whole Bhagavad Gita is based on Arjuna left, right, and center questioning Krishna, right? And so many stories coming out of it. So we were always encouraged to ask questions. So even when I got into spirituality, I did this and I said, okay, what is happening to me? Why is this happening? What else is there? So that curiosity was something that was encouraged, even by my teachers here on the spiritual path, where they said 100% shak karo, 100% doubt it, 100% get into it. And before I realized, I started by exploring the path, but I had started exploring myself. Then I realized it was a very, very limitless journey. Before I realized, it's been 15 years and now teaching for the last 12 years. And every day you stop being a teacher, you just become a better student.
That is fantastic. No, just on that lines, I think I that rebellious phase, you're questioning, and then at times I realize nanu aa pathal hodaga sometimes I ask my mom, why are we doing this? So when I get to a conclusion, maybe this is the better understanding, and I put a question to her saying, is this why?
Yeah.
I think this is why it is. And then they maybe so at some point I think the imperfect mom suddenly ಇರ್ಬೋದಪ್ಪ ನಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
Yeah, true.
That happens. And also on the Sanatana Dharma part, I think spirituality for many people looks like a blanket or something that is a one that fits all. But as soon as you get deeper inside, you realize that it is you who makes your spirituality.
Yeah, correct. I think that's the beauty of 100%. The whole thing. That's because a lot of people tend to confuse religion with spirituality. They are so different. Religion is just one way to help you get in. It's like a door. So our door alli now front door alli hogbodu, back door alli hogbodu, which are the different religions. But spirituality is beyond that. I remember a very beautiful example said by Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar. He says, religion is like the peel of the banana. Spirituality is the actual banana. ಕೆಲವು ಸಲ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ ರಿಲಿಜನ್ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇದೇ ರಿಚುವಲ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ನಮ್ಮದಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಲಿಜನ್ you will always find variety, but in spirituality it unites. So don't get stuck with just the outer covering, was my biggest realization.
Fantastic. No, we've actually ventured into quite intense topics. So like the journey of purpose and how does it make you feel now that you are a teacher and you're say getting people whose mental health may not be at its best? So what does tell them that how, like you said, it's you act as a mirror at times, and then you're basically allowing them their thoughts to sink, and then and then you also said you are somebody who loves to talk. So how's that transition change? How's that who's the Sreekala that changes from somebody who talks and somebody who can listen? So any tips on how we can actually get to a easier state of mind?
Oh, the wealth of the breath. That's where I realized there is always now when the first thing of course is to acknowledge that hey, I am eligible to have a better state of mind. ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಇಡೀ ಜೀವನ they live as if they've got so used to just staying with an unhappy mind. versus even realizing that they're eligible to have peace of mind, right? First, our willingness barbeku. Okay, I want to get better in life. I want to be a better version of myself. ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಜನ ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. They have to come to that realization. Once they come there, then there are so many ways. In fact, there are so many ways available, but the easiest way is through the breath. So that was the philosophy that actually attracted me to this method of teaching. It's where ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಣಾಯಾಮ ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾತಾಡುವಾಗ, if you see, there is a strong link between the breath and the mind. ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೋಪ ಬಂದಾಗ you breathe in a certain way, right? When you are happy, you breathe in a certain way. ಕೋಪ ಬಂದಾಗ ತುಂಬಾ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ breath. When we are very calm, the breath is very long and drained out. So ಆ ತರ ಇರುವಾಗ there is a strong connection between these two. So if your state of mind can influence your breath, then your breath, vice versa, can influence the state of mind as well. So what we do is work on the breath, because that is something that you can handle, and then use it to influence the mind. And that just teaches you that you can see everybody has only a finite amount of energy. Let's call it 100 grams. ಈ 100 grams ನ ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ವರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆಂಗ್ಸೈಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವ. ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಆ ಸೇಮ್ 100 grams ಆಫ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿನ ನಾವು ಜನರಿಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಬೆಟರ್ ಬೈ ದೆಮ್ಸೆಲ್ಸ್, or getting creative like how Pungidasa is doing, alva, ಅನ್ನೋದು is a decision that each one of us has to make, right? So the moment you realize that you have only 100 grams, then you realize that, hey, I better use it for the best. For me, this was my quest, and that is how I realized that I definitely found a purpose in volunteering, in teaching, and doing something better that makes a difference to this world. Because we are at a juncture in civilization where we have enough number of knowledge available, but not all knowledge converts into wisdom. We have people who can get enough number of degrees, right? But ella degrees, ella hana, ella success in terms of the material sense bandbittu or 6ನೇ floor inda jump ಹೊಡೆದ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ, none of it matters. So it is fundamental we learn how to handle the mind.
Fantastic. So I think one last question, just to keep the podcast. I would love to keep this going for a very long time.
Sure, absolutely.
Compassion, empathy. So you said volunteering, and that's something that now has become synonymous with who I am.
Right.
How's that journey, and do you think that is the magic solution for the present generations, troubles with who they are as an identity?
I have absolutely no doubt that volunteering will open up things in people's life like it never did before. Because now volunteering ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? You're thinking beyond yourself. When does depression hit you? When do you tend to have anxiety, worry, panic, negative emotions around you? When you're sitting in a room and thinking, what about me, what about me, what about me? Adik badlu, when we ask, hey, what can I do for others? Then automatically you've shifted the focus from yourself to others. Adaga, you go into a space of giving versus taking. There is always a certain joy in giving versus taking. Therefore, people are beginning to realize the value of volunteering, right? Because when people become volunteers, when do you do now volunteering anta ivaga nam either in Kannada or in Hindi adana ನಾವು ಸೇವಾ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೇವಾ ಅಂತ ಯಾಕೆ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? It is doing things without an expectation, right? Expectation ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವಾಗ, when you're giving your time, energy and effort into somebody else getting better, yeah, definitely there is the their merits, the blessings that come to you from them, and they're going to be very nice people to you. They'll probably take you for idli vade somewhere in busy with filter coffee as well. But apart from that, what is happening is that you are suddenly thinking big. Adanna now leadership language alli we are saying bigger picture, end to end, empathetic leadership, all this we are talking. But hey, it starts from the grassroots, which is asking the question, how can I make things better for people?
And then you summarized it perfectly. There's nothing that I can add to it. So we'll officially close the podcast here.
Thank you so much, Sunil, for this. It's been absolutely a pleasure. These 45 minutes that we've spent together and talking, I'm sure have been insightful, not just for the people listening, but for each other as well. I've loved it a lot. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes, yes. I will just close the recording.